Hello everyone on Facebook, it's Steve Barrett here, just about to record our weekly podcast. Got the gang together, we've got Frank Washkuch, my co-host. How you doing, Frank?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good.
It's good to have you back hosting the podcast, but actually it's me that's been away for the podcast.
You have, we missed you madly and in so many ways, but yeah, good to have you back. We got Peter Finn here. Peter, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on board. One of the legendary names in public relations, so really looking forward to interviewing you, finding out about what's going on at Finn Partners. Lots of great growth there, and we'll talk about some topical issues as well. So if you've got any comments, questions, add them to our Facebook feed. Try and be nice, just because it's on social media. We don't have to be snarky, do we? And let's keep it, and let's have a great show. So we'll start recording very shortly. Hello and welcome to the PR Week, PR Week's regular weekly roundup of everything that matters in the worlds of PR and communications. My name's Steve Barrett. I'm the editorial director of PR Week. Going to guide you gently through 30 minutes, maybe a little more of content with our fantastic guest this week, Peter Finn, founding managing partner of Finn Partners. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. And we've got Frank Washkuch, our co-host, staunch PR Weeker. Great to have you back, Frank. How you doing?
Content farmer, you know, the rest of
Content farmer, yeah, that's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amongst other things. How was your staycation?
It was pretty good.
Yeah?
No
Well, if you're going to
complaints,
have a staycation, New York's a pretty good place to have,
is.
isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to Peter and we'll talk about the big stories of the week. Accenture, interesting acquisition there. Drogo 5. Tara Rush got a new gig. She's moving into the auto sector from Heineken. Beer to cars, what could go wrong? IPG, they've tweaked their PR agency roster. Arbys, they've still got the meats. We'll find out about their latest campaign there. And Weber has won Kellogg's from Edelman. Interesting. They kind of won it 5 years ago, but then they got conflicted out. They finally got their hands on the cereals, so we'll talk about that. But Peter, let's start with you. You're one of the legendary names, Finn, in public relations history. Your father obviously started Ruder Finn. How many years ago would that have been?
Well, it was in 1948.
Yeah.
So my father and my uncle Bill Ruder started the company together. Yes.
And we honoured your father in our Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, which was great to do, and you know, really one of the, I remember when we did our 10th anniversary at PR Week, we got together your father, Richard Edelman, Harold Burson, and Al Golin, which was a really nice piece. But obviously things have changed a little bit since then. They've mushroomed, these Finn related agencies. Why don't we talk about that a little bit? Obviously, if we compare you guys with Edelman, I guess Dan Edelman kind of gave Richard 51%, and that's how that agency progressed. Didn't quite go the same way with the Finn family, and you split away and set up Finn Partners.
Right.
It must be 4 or 5 years ago.
Actually, just over 7 years.
Really?
It was December 2011. We announced the launch of Finn Partners.
Yeah, and you've gone great guns since then. You're now up to sort of 88 million.
Well, last year was 88 million, but things have continued to develop since then. So we started in December 2011 with about 150 people, and we had 24 million in fees. Last year we did 88 million, but right now, you know, we've closed on 2 acquisitions since the beginning of the year. We've won a huge number of very significant accounts in the past 12 weeks. So we're now operating at over 100 million. So in the past 15 months, our growth has been something like 25%. We're 700 people in 18 offices around the world and over 100 million fees now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Talk us through the acquisition strategy. Are you buying brands and letting them operate with their brand names, or do you have an aspiration to eventually rebrand them all as Finn Partners? How are you going to work around that?
All of the firms transition over time, and the time frame is different in every case, to the Finn Partners brand. All of them, even if they keep their own brand name, they will be their company name, a Finn Partners company, because we're not a holding company, we're an agency. And we've made 17 acquisitions since our start, and I spend half my time in acquisitions, and I have colleagues, other founding managing partners. There are 9 of us who together started Fin Partners. They all work closely with me, particularly on the integration of acquired firms. So it's a very important, serious job for us, making sure that we pick the right firms to acquire and that we work hard in integrating them effectively. In terms of our strategy, there are a couple of things that are important to us. One, we are looking either to strengthen existing practice areas or add practice areas we think are strategically important that we don't have, and or build market share we have in office, or enter a new market that we think is strategically important. So those are 4 critical criteria. We're looking to also to add teams of people who know how to work together well, share our common values. That's really important. Fin Partners was launched with a set of 7 core values, and the first topic I talk about in every conversation with a firm we might acquire is what our core values are. And I sort of look for the reaction and see if it resonates with them. And there will be situations where we've talked to great firms that we have walked away from because it was clear the core values just didn't resonate. I think that has been critical to our success. We're finding that entrepreneurs are attracted by our philosophy and our core values, and their team members feel more comfortable quickly because of our core values. And core value number 1 is work hard and play nice. And that seems like,
That's the same
simple.
values we have, isn't it, Frank? Around PR week, work hard and play
You're
nice.
gonna get a sign that says that, hanging above the desk.
That sounds like a good mission to me.
But, unfortunately, in a lot of agencies, there are a lot of sharp elbows and silos.
Yeah.
And for us, there are a number of reasons that also have to do with how we were launched. Collaboration is huge for us at Fin Partners, and we really do have a team that works together very well.
So talk to me about that, the acquiring firms and making sure they do come on board and they're not just there to do an earn out and then cash in and go away.
Right.
That happens a lot of times. We saw
Right.
with Edelman, they had a couple of acquisitions that, in their results, they one in Germany and one in the Middle East. It just didn't work out. And
Right.
what is the secret of making a successful acquisition?
I think it starts with making sure that you have similar core values. Without that, it's just not going to work. Secondly, there has to be a serious commitment on our part, the acquirer's part, to making sure that the management team as well as all the employees feel like we care and that we're working hard every day to make them part of Fin Partners. So for every acquisition, I play the lead role in picking the right acquisitions and negotiating the terms. But one of the other founding managing partners works closely with me, particularly starting when we close the deal. And part of their job every day, every week, is to make sure that they're focused on that, making sure that both the management and staff members of the acquired company feel like they're part of the team. There are also other things we do that that help us. We have our own retreat center in upstate New York, and we have several retreats a year. We have one coming up in May, which is our leadership summit. We'll have 80 of the most senior people from our 18 offices around the world come together for 3 days. We also have one in the fall for mid-level executives. Again, there are 35 people drawn from all of our offices, so it's a way for people to get to know each other and develop and maintain relationships. We've just launched a pilot exchange program where members of the staff can apply to do a 2-week exchange in another office. Again, it's all about making people feel like they're part of something bigger.
How do you, it's a lot of acquisitions, and it'd be good to find out what your overall strategy is. When will you have got enough, if you like? But how do you fund all that? Is it private equity funded? Well, what's the model?
Stagwell made a minority investment in Fin Partners several years ago. Other than that, it's all been funded out of our operations.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's Mark Penn's holding company, which
Right.
has clearly been in the news a lot recently with
Yes.
his new role at MDC and taking a big investment in that. So how has that changed what you do, and how's that helped? You know, what's been the big,
The MDC investment or Stagwell?
for you guys with the Stagwell
Well,
relationship?
So Stagwell provided us with funding that has made a number of our acquisitions possible, which was very valuable to us. They've also helped us by introducing us to some senior talent that was not happy where they were at other agencies, that have joined us and are doing a fantastic job for us. So, you know, and I've known Mark Penn, I should disclose this, I've known Mark Penn for 50 years. We went to high school together. So, you know, there's a very good relationship between the two of us, smart guy. He's given us some good advice. So, you know, provided us with some cash for acquisitions, helped us recruit some very talented people, and he's given us some good advice. So I would say overall it's been a very good relationship.
Yeah, very much so. And what's the aspiration then? What are you looking to build?
Okay,
Will you have a size where you think, right, this is it, and now we'll integrate and move forward?
Our goal is for Fin Partners. We have a specific vision statement that I've shared with our leadership group. You know, the 80 people who come to our leadership summit, with other members of our staff. Whenever I make a presentation in an office to staff members, I talk about this, and I talk about this with anybody who is thinking about bringing their firm into Fin Partners. And that is that my goal is for Fin Partners to be a well-respected global agency with a heart and a conscience, that any major client in a key market around the world would consider hiring. Now, certain pieces of, first of all, I think we're probably the only agency that has in their vision statement they want to be an agency with a heart and a conscience. That's really important to us. In a way, that's why Fin Partners exists today, because that's so important to us. And everybody in the agency knows that. So I think we have that now. To be an agency where any major client, key markets around the world consider hiring, that's a tall order. I think we've made huge progress. We started with 6 offices, now we're 18. We were basically a US agency when we started, now we've really become a global agency. We have more work to do. We have markets where we have a small presence, we have to strengthen. We have some markets we don't have a presence in yet, we need to do something about that. So clearly, given that vision statement, I'm going to be busy for a very long time.
You're not stepping back anytime soon.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you that sort of regrets not being able to do this a bit earlier, you know, and spin off? And obviously you clearly had this aspiration for quite a long time, and for whatever reason you weren't able to do that within the Rue de Fin umbrella.
I actually first started talking about launching Fin Partners in year 2000. And there was not agreement within the Fin family that was a good idea. Eventually we did come to an agreement that it would be best for everybody if we could each do our own thing. So I work I own the company with my 3 sisters, and we work together. We obviously had a successful agency, but it is best for all of us to be doing our own thing. So it was liberating for me, and I am free to run Fin Partners the way I would like to run it, and I am free to grow the agency the way I'd like to grow it, and it's been fantastic for me. It's honestly, things have gone far better than I ever expected. I didn't know what to expect. I knew I needed to do this.
Yeah.
And I've really been able to achieve very much what I wanted.
Well, to be honest, it sounds like it's been best for all parties.
It has, yes, it has been best for everybody.
Yeah, okay. So you don't all get together around the Thanksgiving table and discuss sort of PR strategies and accounts?
You know, several of us still remain close. One of my sisters came with me and watched Fin Partners. So I'm still, both my parents are still alive. I see them regularly. I think they were uncertain in the beginning how they felt about this, but now I think they see that it was really best for everybody.
Yeah.
So the family relationships are fine.
Good. So it's a great story. So I mean, it's great to have you on and find out more about it. Finally, you know, what are the areas that are really resonating? You mentioned that you've gone into London, you're in Asia, you bought Widmeyer Communications in DC, you know, great agency. What are the real practice areas or areas of the business that are really sort of helping you achieve that incredible growth?
Well, our biggest practice areas are technology is number one. Health is another very large practice area that's grown rapidly. Gil Bash runs that for us, does a fantastic job for the agency. Jody Brooks is our tech practice leader. Gail Money is our travel practice leader. Travel has become a very important, significant global practice for us. We have other strong practices such as education, consumer, but the three big ones are tech, health, and travel. Digital has become a very big practice for us. We now have about 150 people out of our 700 who are digital marketing, members of our digital marketing team. They don't do PR, but they are very good at digital marketing.
And you've sort of, I think you've gone on record as saying, that there's a big debate in the industry, aren't there, about whether people are, should we call ourselves PR professionals? Goldin went down the road a few months ago and said, yeah, we're PR and we're proud of it, whereas others are talking about earned creative or communications marketing. What's your take on that sort of
I
position?
don't really have a point of view on what we call ourselves. I mean, we Finn Partners started as a traditional PR firm 7.5 years ago. We've really evolved, and now we have team members who have different capabilities, who are more of an integrated agency. What matters is, making sure we do great work for our clients and keep winning more clients, and we're doing that. And so whether we call ourselves a PR firm or marketing services agency, I don't know.
Do you think we over-obsess about that a bit in our bubble?
I think maybe. I don't know if it really matters.
It gives us something to write about,
Yeah.
All right, it was great to chat to you, Peter, and we'll look forward to getting your input on some of our topical subjects and plotting the progress as you grow, and it's a great story. Frank, let's get into the news. Interesting, a number of agency stories to chat about. Talking of agency models and what we call ourselves, I mean, Accenture has been, and the other management consultancies have been kind of coming into the marketing services space, haven't they? And this is probably one of the higher profile acquisitions of Drogo 5, creative agency.
Yeah, some would call it a creative powerhouse. So a big wave-making acquisition this week, in that Accenture has bought Drogo 5, and then doing a Q&A with our sister brand Campaign. David Drogo, who founded the agency, was talking about really giving it an opportunity to paint word pictures here, with grabbing the industry by the scruff of neck.
Painting word pictures.
Great term.
What a great term.
But Drogo 5 is obviously one of those firms you hear about, always being hailed for their creative work, winning awards at Cannes and things like that. Clients include Chase, Prudential, Kraft, Hershey, Under Armour, brands like that. Have 500 staff in New York and London, founded in 2006. So yeah, a really high-profile buy for Accenture, for a consultancy. Yeah,
and one of the interesting elements of this story is that Drogo had an investment by William Morris Entertainment, hadn't it? Of 49% investment.
Which is now over.
Yeah, I think they're now called Endeavour, and they have the IMG group as part of their brand. So clearly they kind of flirted with a larger umbrella organisation, but maybe that one hadn't worked out to in the way they wanted, maybe on both sides. But so it'll be really interesting to see how that one plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, what's your view on this sort of management consultancies coming into what we might call our world? Whether that's in advertising or PR services.
Right. Well, it's clear they're on this path.
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
going to be doing this. As we were discussing before we started the podcast today, what the management consulting firms they have access to very high level decision makers and big clients. The question is, I talked when I was describing the acquisitions we've made, how important the cultural fit is for us, and that's been key to our success. So time will tell whether there's a cultural fit here, and this is something that when ad agencies started buying PR firms back in the 90s, there were problems with the cultural fit. So we'll see. I think that there's a lot of disruption in our industry, whether it's the management consulting firms, or whether it's clients building in-house agencies, or whether it's the tech platforms, Google and Amazon and Facebook and LinkedIn, draining off marketing dollars that otherwise might have been spent.
And media dollars, as we know, to our costs.
So there is a lot of disruption in our industry, just as there is throughout the economy, and we'll see how this thing sorts out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point on culture, because they're not creative businesses, are they? Management consultancies.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
And is a Drogo 5 going to prosper in that environment? I mean, it could be a perfect fit. You never know. but you know, certainly looking at Edelman, they've hired 500 or 600 creatives over the last few years, and you know, that's been a big culture change for them with those people coming in, but also for the creatives coming
Right.
into, and it hasn't always worked, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're very different environments, and
Yes.
Richard wants people doing a lot of client work, you know, above 50% for sure. He still does that himself. So, and that I guess doesn't always happen in creative firms. So you're absolutely right about the culture there. Let's talk about Tara Rush. Frank,
Yeah.
well known to us.
Of course,
Great
we have
PR
followed.
pro.
We have followed
And,
Tara back to her agency days, and
Yeah.
more recently her work at Heineken. You know, first, most recently as the chief corporate affairs officer at Heineken in the U.S., and she is going over to Audi of Americas, where she's going to lead communications in this region for the car maker. So it's interesting. It's another woman moving into the car space, which has you know, traditionally been kind of a bit of a boys' club, and you know, really interesting to see what she's going to bring to Audi.
That's a good point, though, because we're doing a little film at the New York Auto Show, and we were trying to find some non-male communications chiefs to speak to, and it's not easy. And we remember Julie Hamp, I
Yes.
think, was probably the last most high-profile female auto exec, and yeah, she's not in the industry anymore. So good move for Tara, and she of course took over from Stacey Tank at Heineken. Stacey went off to Home Depot, and Tara's now gone off to Audi. So we wish her well with that move. Going back on the agency beat, Interpublic Group has merged a couple of its shops, Current and Creation. What's the thinking behind that, Frank?
So you think about it kind of like scooping off Creation from where it was connected and launched by Weber Shandwick a few years ago, and combining it with Current, which is so you take the two shops and it becomes a really interesting regional fit. You know, one side, you know, stronger in the U.S., the other side a bit stronger in London, and so you're also going to have this co-CEO model with you know, Virginia Devlin running half of the, or I should say co-CEOing it out of New York, and George Coleman doing the same out of London. So it's, you know, it's a really interesting merging together of these two shops, you know, said to be of similar cultures, have had a good fit together, working for Radio Flyer and for other clients. And they described the size of the firm as going to be about $37 million, or a little bit larger. So a non-insignificant agency for sure. Definitely going to be a player within the Interpublic structure, within CMG, and the greater landscape, yeah.
Yeah, they both have their roots in Weber to a certain extent, don't they? CMG, Constituency Management Group, is one of the umbrella groups in IPG that houses a lot of its PR firms. So what's your sort of competitive go-to-market positioning when you come up against the holding companies? You must come up against them all the time.
Right.
What's your how do you sort of stand apart from them?
Well, as an independent agency, we're more nimble, and you know, we do go up against them all the time. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but I think our clients, I think the advantage the independent agencies have is that we can take the long-term point of view. We don't have to worry about the next quarterly report. The holding company agencies have been having struggles for the past couple of years. Now, some of the independents have too. Some of the bigger independents have had their struggles. But as a general rule, I would say the independents can invest in client relationships, they can invest in the business in a way that's hard to do in a holding company agency, again, because we can take the long-term point of view. We don't have to worry about our quarterly earnings. So, you know, IPG, I think we checked this before coming here, they own something like 100 agencies. WPP, Omnicom, they own a lot of agencies, and WPP has merged a couple of them in the
It's got
past
too many brands, hasn't
couple
it,
of years.
basically? It's-
Well, you know, look, there are efficiencies that can be achieved by consolidating. On the other hand, there's the whole question of cultural fit. And I think the Burson Cohen Wolf merger created a lot of problems. It actually created some opportunities for other agencies. And we ended up with some great talent, people who didn't see their future there because of the merger and have joined us and are doing a great job for us. So, you know, the articles I've read said that this merger was not about consolidation, not about reducing the number of brands.
Well, nobody ever says it is about
Right.
consolidation.
But I think, you know, that the holding companies certainly have their challenges, and There was a time when the holding companies were first acquiring PR firms that there were predictions again and again that the day of the independent was over, the independent agency. And it hasn't turned out that way. I think that the independents are doing really well, and I think independents will continue to do really well.
Yeah, well, you look at yourselves, I think We is back, got its mojo back, and Edelman is obviously a juggernaut, it's the biggest in the business, and lots of other smaller firms. So there's room in the market for everything.
Yes.
Everyone, I think,
Right.
is the story, isn't it? So, and yeah, you don't have to make a 30% margin on every single piece of business, which some holding companies insist upon. And you don't have to service the holding company, which adds a layer, doesn't it? You must have had them sniffing around over the years, so I'm trying to see if you were going to be interested in selling. Would you ever sell to a big holding company like that?
I don't think so, but you know, look, I'm still a young guy. I'm 65 years old, young guy. I plan to. What I've told my wife is that when I'm 75, I'll cut back to 4 days a week. So I'm going to do this for a long time. I like being in a position to make our own decisions, and my intention is to remain independent for the long term.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's talk about Arbys, Frank. They're always an interesting company to follow, and they've got a new campaign out. Tell us
Yes,
about
they
it.
not only have the meats, they have a new campaign in which you can subscribe to Arbys. Subscription, still a big deal. You can subscribe to Arbys, and they can send you any of like 200 combination packs of products, from fake tattoos to scarves and hats, and you know, all kinds of.
Now, Frank, that sounds right up your street, mate.
Yeah, you know.
Will you be subscribing?
I definitely would love to be nothing more than just a brand shill. all
Will
the time.
you be
That is-
sporting an
that's all
Arbys
me.
tattoo next week?
No,
in
I
the
think
newsroom?
more of like an Arby's skull cap type, winter cap type thing. I don't know. Anyway, if you love Arby's, it's your opportunity, and yeah.
Maybe it's like
So
Sean
good.
Sarnecki, our man behind the dials. That might be our history. Although he would prefer just lots of Arbys food, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean's definitely up for it. But yeah, always interesting to see what they do, and they're a good brand to watch. They do a lot of social stuff, Peter. Social's infused in everything now, and we see some of the biggest stories on our site are about social. Some would call them stunts, to be honest. You know, that's just the where they happen now.
Right.
What's your take on that? Is a lot of this just noise in a bubble that we're taking a bit more attention than consumers, or it has genuinely changed the way people communicate? hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just part of our business now, on every account.
Yeah. So you've got to do that, and you've just got to get it right, and maybe not dive in. What did you think of the controversy, the sort of Budweiser and Miller Coors thing? Well, that's
I don't really have anything to.
he's not getting involved in the controversy.
So I made Arby's a bit of an object of fun there, but I should plug one of our older stories about Arby's, and I think some of our listeners are probably familiar with the nihilist Arby's Twitter account, which is one of my favorites, being a nihilist. Of course. So it's this Twitter account that makes fun of Arby's, and when the guy's Twitter account got hacked a couple of years ago, Arby's actually stepped in and helped him. And Diana Bradley did a story on it. It's a terrific story of how Arby's actually stepped in to help this dude out who was making fun of him, and it was a really cool thing they did.
It's a good way to engage. I've been down to their real-time marketing control room down near Atlanta and seen where all that action happens. It's a very impressive setup. So yeah. Last story this week is a really big account. When some say it's in the 8-figure department, and everyone likes to win accounts that big, Weber has won Kellogg's.
It's won it back.
Won it back from Edelman. Tell us the story behind that, because they did win it 5 years ago.
It's a long and winding story of how the Kellogg account goes away from Weber and then goes to Edelman, which then rolls out a conflict shop called Crisper with a K, specifically to...
It's a 3 or 4 part cereal. isn't it?
Right.
See what I did there, Frank?
Good one. So it rolls out this conflict shop called Crisper, and which may or may not still exist.
Totally
But we'll
unconnected with
see.
the Edelman mothership, of course.
Right, of course, of course. And so after a number of years, Kellogg reviewed this account again, which is very influencer heavy, we're told. And this time Weber Shandwick wins it back. So years ago, the reason Weber had to resign the account was because of conflicts within McCann, within the public group holding company. So
Yeah, I'm not sure it was McCann, but it was one of their advertising agencies. So,
one of the advertising agencies. So, so yeah, after a number of years, that account has gone away from Weber, and now it's back there. So, we'll be following. See
We will. We
if
will
it stays
indeed.
at Weber or where it goes next.
$10
or
million
whatever happens.
account, Peter. You got any of those?
No, we don't.
Do you aspire to play in that territory, or are those so procurement led that really it's difficult to make money out of them?
You know, our biggest account is 3% of our fees,
Right.
and I prefer it that way. So that, you know, we work hard for all of our clients, but if a client does decide to make a change, it's not devastating. It won't put our business at risk. You know, some agencies I talk to, half their business is with one client, so we never want to be in that.
Yeah, that's a stressful place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. All right, Peter, thanks for being our guest. It was great fun to talk to you, and good
Thank you.
continued success with building that and working till 75, and then maybe getting a day off a week.
Yeah, right.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Just a couple of, and thank you, Frank, as always. A couple of customer service announcements. We've got our Brand Film Festival on May the 2nd in New York City at the Paley Media Center. Great event, all the best in brand filmmaking on display there, a gala screening and some workshops in the afternoon. That should be fun. Our Global Awards, they're in London on May the 21st. Brilliant lineup of shortlisted entries there. Look forward to seeing some of you at that. We have our Hall of Fame in June. I think it's June the 6th this year, so look out for that one. And our conference, we're going back to Chicago, October 19. Going to be another great show up there. It's called The Purpose Principles, so we'll be really digging into the subject of purpose, which is behind a lot of companies' corporate reputation and communication strategies at the moment. But that's all we've got time for. We'll see you next time on the PR Week.